This is something that the Scottish Government is actively investigating, and I know that the UK Government are doing this as well. Currently, if a couple suffer a miscarriage, unless it's at 24 weeks or later, which is then a stillbirth, if it's before 24 weeks, there is no certification, there is no official acknowledgement that your baby ever really existed, and that can be very, very distressing for parents. So what we're trying to do is look at ways, working with baby loss charities, about how this could be introduced on a voluntary basis, because some parents may decide that they don't want to go down this road, and that's fine. And for some parents, it's actually really important that their loss is acknowledged, and that a baby existed, and the world sees that, and the world understands that. And it's something that we have to tread very carefully here, because it has to be done very sensitively. But it is being investigated, and I think that's the right thing to do, because a lot of people who have a miscarriage often feel that they're not given the acknowledgement of their loss that perhaps babies who are stillborn are given. So it's important that this process is inclusive, because the consequences for the individuals affected are very far-reaching and extremely distressing. So I think anything we can do to help the grieving process and help people move forward in whatever way they can, I think that's very important.
And when you mention those consequences, what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, one of the things that we know is that when parents lose a child, that they are 8 times more likely than their counterparts who didn't lose a child to get divorced. Now, we know that 1 in 3 marriages fail, but with bereaved parents, it's 8 times more likely that you'll divorce. There's a social cost to divorce for families and other children in the family. We know that some people who go through the experience of baby loss, they often drop out of the workplace altogether. Sometimes they self-medicate. Sometimes they develop serious mental health issues. So there's a whole, as well as the emotional cost to families and individuals, we have to consider the social cost. People's lives are being sometimes ruined purely for the lack of support that they're receiving. So I think that the state has a role to play here, and the progress that we make is important, but the support and the aftercare that bereaved parents get is just as important as anything else that we can do.
And how would it work? I mean, it sounds like a fantastic idea, and obviously you've mentioned there that miscarriage is a really traumatic experience, not just for the mother as well, but for the father to be or partner. Is a certificate enough? Is it going to be worth it? It's not obviously going to bring that baby back or that chance of having a family back, is it?
No, I mean, with baby loss, miscarriage, stillbirth, there's really nothing that can negate that loss in any way, and couples have to, somehow with support from wider family and from the hospital that treated them, they have to find their way through that fog of grief and somehow come out on the other side. A certificate for a miscarriage isn't going to take away the pain and all the hope that was invested in that pregnancy.
Yeah.
But for some parents, and I appreciate, not for all perhaps, but for some parents, that official acknowledgement becomes quite important in the darkest days, because to be sent home from the hospital with nothing, with no route to go to register officially that your child existed, because for the parents the child did exist, even if it was miscarried. It can seem very clinical and cold. So anything that we can do, anything that officialdom can do to pay tribute to the fact that the child existed, for some parents I know would mean a great deal, and it would help, I think, for some parents with the grieving process.
And how do you think that will be implemented then? I assume that it would only, be for parents who've had a miscarriage, say in a hospital setting, not for those who've experienced a loss at home, for example. So would it be something that the NHS would, implement, or would it be a GP?
It wouldn't necessarily just extend to people who'd miscarried in hospital. Because, when you've had a miscarriage, your GP, the hospital which is treating you, is aware of that. How the detail of how it's going to be rolled out and how it might work is something that's under active consideration by the baby loss charities who work with parents who miscarry. They see these parents every day, and it has to be done, I think, as part of an inclusive conversation with these parents, asking them what would have made them feel, what would have brought them some comfort at that time. Because I think that the focus has to be the voices of the bereaved parents if we're going to move forward and try to make things better. It can't be something that's done to them. It has to be something that's done
that's
in which their voice is a part of that.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, it's Baby Loss Awareness Week this week. Do you feel that, we just need to be a little bit more open in terms of our conversation around miscarriage and stillbirth? It often feels very much like a taboo for many people, doesn't it?
It really is. I mean, for generations, families have, they've gone through this terrible, terrible tragedy, and it's something that people didn't talk about. And anecdotally, I've heard stories of women who have had stillbirths, and their neighbours and their friends cross the road when they see them because they're so scared of saying the wrong thing. And it's okay to ask how people are, and it's okay to talk about the baby that's gone, because sometimes that can be a comfort to parents. Everybody's different, but the important thing is that we try and break down the fear of talking about this, because so many families, when this happens to them, are utterly isolated because they don't feel that they can talk about it, because it's very difficult to talk about a dead child. It's extremely hard. So the key to making progress and trying to tackle this issue so that we deal with it less often, and when we do deal with it, we deal with it in a better way. The key to that is a conversation about it. That's how you make progress, and you let people know who are going through this. And 4,000 babies are stillborn every year, and another 2,500 die shortly after birth. That's every year. So we need to be talking about this, and we need people who are going through this to know you're not alone, and we can and we should talk about this more openly. It can't be a taboo, because for some people it's a shadow on their lives forever, and they need to know that we're listening.